Wow.
How about it? How about that?
I'm glad to see your hair hasn't changed much over the years.
It honestly hasn't, especially not today. Uh, that is Disney World 1980, probably I don't know, seven
Now, is
maybe.
that's your dad behind you, right?
No, that is a leader of a
Oh, okay.
Colombian drug cartel. No,
Okay,
that's
that's
my
awesome.
dad. That's my dad for sure. He looks like he's like a cartel
Yeah,
leader. The
he looks like someone that was really not impressed with Disney at the time.
He did his best, man. He did. My dad was a pimp though. Look at that dude. Just blue blockers on.
Yeah, no, I love
Yeah.
it. Like he's clearly just made a transaction in some Peruvian jungle somewhere. And it was like, I'll just take my son to Disney on the way up.
Yeah, we're headed back to the airplane on the small airstrip in the jungle to get out of there. That's what we're
Yeah.
doyou Yeah.
He just sold a bunch of cocaine and was like, you know what, Eric, you need to write a really good song. Like
Yeah.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
We gotta pay for this business somehow. People have stopped liking cocaine. You need to write some songs.
Yeah, about reindeers with shiny
Yeah.
noses.
So that's anyway, like that this picture plays back into my thing about how like I mean, there's no wonder I was picked on and bullied as a kid. I mean, look at that guy. Look at that haircut.
Oh,
Look at that
yeah.
haircut, dude. I
That's
mean,
that's that's helmet hair. I've had that hair though
I
too.
was not getting out of the 80s alive at all. Like just ruthlessly picked on. But I seemed happy though. Like I wish you could see the rest of the picture because I'm kind of walking in this like do 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 kind of way, like
Yeah.
uh I'm just blissfully happy in my with my chubby knees and
What
everything
was
else is
Disney like back then? I mean, I've seen it now, so obviously times have changed, but like was it more like I mean, I don't know. I don't know if woke is the correct word, but like it seemed back then like I would have enjoyed Disney a lot more before it got like too political.
yeah, I mean politics ruins everything, man. Like politics ruins sports. I don't care what like just
Correct.
whatever politics. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not
Like you just can't go to Disney and enjoy time with your family and friends and look at
well, it's
cartoon.
it's honestly, man, it's not like I don't think it's what's been painted as far as that stuff goes. I mean, it's like I haven't been since pandemic, I guess, but um I know people that have, and I mean, look, you just go and have fun, It's like you can't you can't you can't walk around your life thinking about politics all the time and like whether it's going to ruin an experience or not. I mean, if I don't know. I just choose not to look at stuff through that lens, I guess. It's easy to fall into the trap of everybody being, you see it all the time on the news or whatever, or it's always being talked about and you're kind of in your bubble. But, when you go out, it's what I talk about being in a band. It's like when you go out into the world, nothing is as described to you, in when you're watching TV or watching the news or whatever. It's like um people are people, man, and most people want what's best for them and for their lives, and nobody's caught up worrying about that stuff. I think if you look at the people who are protesting something or caught up in something, they're usually just unhappy people anyway. Not that we shouldn't push back against, look, we're starting right in with this government stuff. Not that we shouldn't push back against, tyrannical things and
Yeah, of
and
course.
uh and that sort of thing. I'm not saying like just be a lemming, but uh most people who preoccupy themselves 24/7 with protesting something, both sides, they tend to be not happy people, in general. So if you can just go about your life and be, go to Disney World and have fun, look, the lines are a lot longer now than they used to be. I mean, I remember that. Like it was nothing for a line at a ride to be, an hour at most, and you're like, oh man. We only went twice when I was a kid. My parents took us twice that time, and then there was one other trip we took a little later, like in the that I mean that might have been earlier on. That might have been 84, 5, something like that. I don't
Right.
know. But we went again in like 88 or so, maybe. Uh and but it just wasn't didn't seem as crowded. Now it's like, man, you can wait 2.5 hours on a ride,
Oh, it's
And if
ridiculous.
you really want to ride it, um, what Kelly and I try to do is we have the luxury of not having any. Let's say it's not a luxury. You don't have kids. I don't mean it like, oh, if you got kids, you're you're
You
screwed.
guys can kind of sprint off. There's no rush. You have to wait kids
Yeah,
eat
well, yeah, but we can go. We can look at like what they're like
fast pass.
like 3 or 4 weeks. They don't do fast passes anymore. It's all on an app now.
Uh,
But you know, like they're like 3 or 4 weeks a year when it's like ghost town in there because and it's usually like the first week of December and then like the first 2 weeks of February or something like that, or the last 2 weeks of February, first 2 weeks of February, I think. Uh, and so as long as we're not touring, we can kick it in at those times, and then it's pretty good.
yeah.
But yeah, man, I just I remember those trips so fondly as a kid, like going, that was a lot
The
of fun.
the car ride trips are always the best, where it's just like jam packed in a car. It's just like you didn't no idea what your parents were doing. Like I remember growing up, like, we'd always drive around with my grandparents and my sisters and I, whatever. And like in the old the old like station wagons had like the ashtrays and like the doors. And like we'd always sit in the back of the window, not knowing what the parents or adults are talking about, just having the best time of our lives as our stupid little camcorders or our little uh Discmans and stuff, and just
Yep.
like I don't know, I kind of miss those times. Like I don't miss the crampiness or the lack of efficiency per se, but like I do love those memories, man. My sisters and I always get together. We would talk about that stuff and just like how fun. Like we remember specific car trips.
Yep.
They're like those family outings where it's like, oh, remember that one time we went to Myrtle Beach and you got lost for like 3 hours. We couldn't find you. It's like, oh yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's like I miss that.
Yeah, I mean, and again, not to be old about it, but there were no cell phones, and
No, correct.
so we would stop at Stuckey's. You know what Stuckey's
I
is?
heard, yeah.
There's like at down in the South down here, they're at certain rest areas. There's a place called Stuckey's, and it was basically like a it was like a frontier version of Spencer's Gifts. Like you'd roll in there, and it's like it's got all of the pirate and like pirate frontier cowboys and Indians type of stuff, like toys for kids, like fake guns and fake pirate swords and stuff. And
So
then
good.
and then there'd be like magazines and candy and whatever. So we'd stop at Stuckey's and you get like a Mad Libs book, where you could play like crossword puzzles or word games or whatever. And we'd do that, and then we'd head down I-95 all the way in, 6.5 hours in a 1973 Oldsmobile, like that was a good thing. Man, my dad, like my family would buy a car and we would keep it. Like growing up, I
Yeah.
had my dad when we were a kid had a white 1968 or 67 Oldsmobile 98, which was a four-door sedan. And he had that car until like 1988 or something, and then got rid of it. Maybe even later than that. Maybe it was about 88. And then my mom drove a 76 Oldsmobile forever and ever and ever. It's a big blue car. They were always 98s. My dad liked the Oldsmobile 98s. These big, I
Yep.
mean, these things were ginormous cars, man. And so we were cruising down the highway in those things. And uh, I heard someone say the other day that it was a European talking about how Americans are just not well traveled, and how we don't ever leave the United States. And well, it's because we can't, or we don't, like if you ever try, like, or we don't have to, like we can go to different countries just in our country. Like
Correct.
Florida is a different country from South Carolina. Like
Texas is different than California.
you drive 6 hours. If you leave the UK and you drive 6 hours, I mean, you're going to be in Austria. It's like, so for us, it's like, oh, that's just Orlando, man. I mean, that doesn't seem that far to me. I think there's one thing about traveling in Europe that frustrates us so much on those buses. It takes so long to get from one place to another. Like we're used to like, you know, oh, 14 hours. Yeah, we're gonna go from Wisconsin
Yeah.
to Colorado to Denver, you know, and whereas 14 hours in Europe will be like what would normally be a 6 hour trip here or
Right.
something,
It's
you
two
know.
ferry rides from the same country to get to another
Yeah.
country.
So this is why we don't leave very often, because kind of like we don't have to. It's like we're going to different countries and everybody speaks the same language, sort of.
Those in those car rides, I remember growing up, we did a ride from Massachusetts to Virginia Beach to visit my own uncle. And I remember as a kid that going down there, all the sideshow attractions, but like the
Hmm.
stores were like gunpowder lace okra,
Oh, right, dude.
country hams, rock candy.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm just like adult video store, Cabbage Patch. I'm just like,
Yes.
what's the deal with that?
It's just something to get people in the door. I
I
mean,
mean, it's ridiculous.
yeah, apple cider, apple cider,
Peanuts.
jelly, peanuts, and triple X girls, and it's like you can just stop at one rest area and it's like all this stuff,
It's
you know.
crazy. I was like, we gotta stop at all these places. It was like, no, we can't go in here. This is like topless chicks,
And why
Virginia
don't we
baked hams.
and we don't stop at these places on tour for some reason. Like they're
I don't
there. They're
because
still there.
yeah, because I don't think we're up early enough. I think the driver realizes if anyone was catching sight of this, hey, can we stop?
Can I stop and see
We're
some
gonna
Can I stop and see some titties and get some saltwater
yeah.
taffy?
I know Barry's sleeping, but he loves fried okra and a good piece of ass. So we're gonna we're gonna stop here and get some Native American arrows and
Dude, that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's just, man, people like to trash America because we're Americans, but it's like, I don't know, man. There's something magical about all of that, about the mix mash of stuff and people and like lack of rules about things, It's just
yeah.
uh I don't know, man. I think it's I watched, there was a Top Gear episode way back in the, I love Top Gear, old Top Gear. Jeremy Clarkson, James May, Richard
Yeah.
Hammond, Top Gear. There was a Top Gear episode where they came to Alabama and Florida and they got in these big United States cars and drove around. But as a joke, they painted stuff on the side of their cars at some point in the South, and I forget what it was, but it was something, I don't know what it was, but they were like shocked at like how like people reacted to those things and how it was kind of like the Wild West. I mean, it's it's they it's interesting, like Europeans like to call Europe and the civilized world, right? They live in the civilized world, but when I go there, it's like I'm bored a lot of the time, in the travel stuff. I'm not talking about like the seeing
Yeah, because
beautiful
like you
things
and
and
I
beautiful
will
places.
walk around 10 miles every day off and just
Yeah,
love
I
it.
mean that stuff is not boring. Your places aren't boring. I'm talking about like they like to say that the civilization over
Oh
there is
yeah.
is boring. It's like, man, eh, you know everything's so organized and just kind of like I'm thinking about Germany, Belgium, France, UK gets a pass, man. UK's got a little bit of stank on it. Yeah, they're a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
but like it's like we get on that ferry from Netherlands to Denmark or something, and it's like everyone's looking at us like we got five heads and we're just disturbing the world, and it's like, well, no, we're like the most calm people in the United States. You should come here and see what it's really about, you
Yeah.
know? Like it's exciting. I love the fact that I don't ever know what I'm gonna get on a daily basis if I leave when I leave home, when I get like we're about to do it in a couple of days. We're about to go up to New Jersey to play a show. I haven't left the house in a minute. Like honestly, I haven't left the house in a minute. Like we're working on the new Shinedown records, the guitar amps and stuff, right? So when I do that,
Harmonica. Yeah.
when I do that, I don't leave. That's actually a new guitar that I acquired recently. It's not a new guitar. It's like I've got it from a friend of mine who sold me a bunch of guitars. But that Taylor is like on. I just took it out of the case. It was at a pawn shop forever, and I recorded like two or three new Shinedown songs for the new record with that
What's
guitar.
on that pillow? Is that an eagle? What
That's
is
an
that?
eagle. My grandmother gave me that pillow. It's an eagle on it.
That's kind of
Let
rad.
me move this out of the way.
Yeah, kind of
Speaking of
rad.
America, there you go. I'm gonna move this over here, and
She
then we
must have
can.
bought that at a gas station on the way to Alabama.
She bought it for me when I built my last recording studio, not this one, but the first one, like my first big studio in like 2016 or so. And she wanted me to have that for the studio. And so
That's
it's part
awesome.
of the studio, my Eagle pillow. But no, but the thing is like when I leave the house to go fly to New Jersey, who knows what might happen, man? I don't know.
I have an
Any,
idea.
any, 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 any manner of thing could happen to me, or I could experience anything between here and New Jersey.
But I think that stuff
Um,
is drawn to you. Like, remember that time the person in Paris was a complete dick to you for no
mhm.
reason? But then the other time you go
Which
to
which
Paris,
time which time though?
yeah,
We have this
yeah,
thing
for
called
sure.
getting Franced in our band. Getting Franced is when you go to France and you're just trying to be a nice person to people, and they don't like you because you're American. And uh, the uh, the I mean, the couple times I've gotten France, one time sticks out like really bad. We were in Amiens, right? Amiens, as I said.
Yeah.
And I took a little bit of French when I was in school. It was the only so I was trying to ask the gentleman who was at the desk at the hotel that we're staying at. So we're occupying 30 something rooms in this hotel. And I just wanted to politely ask him how to go to where the bathroom was. So I did my best French, where the bathroom is. And he looks at me, he just got this like pissed off look on his face. He goes, "Are you trying to ask me where the bathroom is?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's over there." And I was like, "You can't you knew what I was asking, but you have to cut me down because my French is bad. Like I'm attempting to talk to you in French rather than just assuming you speak English, you know?"
Right.
There was that time when we were in Paris and uh Brent uh went to get everybody lunch on the crew. This is one of the first times we were there, so we were playing this kind of super small place, and um he's like there's a subway down the street. So he went down to the subway. No, I apologize. He was going to get himself lunch, and he went down to the subway down the street, and the guy behind the counter didn't speak English, and he's trying to like point out and order what he wants, and the guy's just like kind of annoyed, but he's like, pointing at what he wants. And, you know, because Brent asked the guys, "Do you speak English?" And go, "No, no," so he's pointing at it. So anyway, he buys the sandwich, goes back, and then he's like, "Oh, I didn't see if anybody else wanted anything. Does anybody else want some Subway?" And so the guys on the crew were like, "Yeah." So he takes our promoter back with him who speaks French to talk to the guy. And so they wait in line again, and he starts telling the promoter, "I want this," and the promoter starts talking to him. And the guy behind the counter finally stops and he looks at Brent and he goes, "Just tell me what you want." But the guy spoke English the whole time. He was just being a dick, you know? And so this is getting franced. That's what we call getting franced. And so when I was just trying to enjoy my back to that story. I was just, I was we were sitting at a outside of a cafe in Paris, and I had my feet up on the rungs, just the rungs on the seat across from me. And we're the only people in there at this bar. But it's nighttime. We're on this cafe sort of sidewalk area, and I, we're drinking beer. We're the only customers, and this guy who runs this bar comes out and like just like chastises me for having my feet up on the rungs and I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" He's like, Get your feet off of my." I was like, "Oh shit, sorry, dude." I was like, "I didn't mean anything by it. I was just, my bad." And then not 3 seconds after I said that, someone's walking their dog past. Their dog lifts its leg and pisses all over this guy's chair. It's out there. And the guy just smiles at him, greets him, says hello, and lets the guy walk on. So this dog can piss all over the chair, but American can't have my feet up on the rungs of the chair. So that's getting franced. There's
There's
that
a
kind of stuff, man. It's like I don't know. Maybe that's an adventure in and of itself, though. That kind of stuff, like figuring out who's going to hate you because you're American or not.
right. That one time, I think 2017, or just starting the European attention. We're in Cologne, Germany. I'm down there with the tour manager. I think you, Barry, a couple of crew people, and I have my foot on this table to kind
They
of
don't.
like I just tied my shoe, but I was also kind of stretching my knee out. This
Yeah.
guy from behind the desk comes over to me and goes, "Sir, you can't put your feet on the table." Very disrespectful. I'm like, "Coachy," I was like, "Hold on a second. I'm never disrespectful, but like I apologize. I'm not here because I'm lazy." Within 2 seconds, Brent Smith walks off the elevator, shirtless, dripping wet, with a towel on his shoulder. Walks literally in between us out to the bus. And I look at and I look at the guy at the hotel, knowing damn well who this was.
Yeah.
This is okay. And I was like,
Well,
okay, awesome.
yeah, dude. I mean, and look, I've learned that over the years. I didn't know that. Like, it's not like they just assume
Correct.
we're disrespectful. But
No,
the first
it's
time, I ever went to Europe, I think I was in Amsterdam actually, and I kind of just had my feet resting up on a table, and this guy came over and like kind of slapped them off, and I was like, "Oh shit," like, and I mean, dude, when someone puts their hands on me like that, I'm like, but I had to remember where I was. Like, I just
yeah.
wanted to like, I was younger too, and I was a hothead back in the day, and I just kind of like, just like, but anyway, I learned, that over there that's like here it's like not a fucking thing. Like nobody gives a shit. That again, it's like, they call it the civilized world. Well, if that's what makes you civilized, that your fucking feet can go up on a or you can't put your feet on a table, then so be it. But um yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, man. It's just I think it's it but again, if you grow up there and you come here and you go back home, you're like, oh, thank God I'm out of that fucking wild place, you know? And when I'm there, I'm like, I cannot wait to get back to the United States. And I love it there, man. I mean, I have fun and I enjoy I do enjoy the adventure of touring there, and the people are amazing, and the fans are always the best. This is not a this is just a cultural difference, you know?
Yeah.
But but yeah, I learned that day that in Europe you don't put your feet on tables, and so,
I wonder, do you think
but I didn't think the rung of a chair across from me was a thing.
that
Yeah.
do you think Europeans specifically after the pandemic kind of their ideas of what we are change at all, the ways of like how their country handled the pandemic? Like
I don't know.
I wonder, like, 'cause, well, I was recently just in Paris with Extreme this past December,
Yeah.
and they're filming a DVD there, like talking to the local like producers and stuff like that. They're super cordial, like, man, we wish you. How was it like living in America during the pandemic? At least you guys can go outside, and so it was like hearing them talk about that openly. We're all kind of
Yeah.
like interesting. I wonder if these other countries are realizing maybe our Wild West way of thinking actually isn't so bad when you look at what rights are being established or taken away.
Well, yeah, I think it's, the look, we've talked about our freedoms or perceived freedom, I guess. We'd have more freedoms than
Yeah,
most people, right? Yeah, this it's not completely free as like we're told to believe it is, but anyway, I think that you take something like that for maybe people to go, oh, maybe the freedom thing is a the fact that we have state laws that trump federal laws, that city laws that trump state laws, like down to the level of where you live, other than, look, I mean, we know we can't murder people and whatever, but like, you're
unless you're Hillary Clinton.
well, the
Yeah,
federal government can make a law, but that's protected by, but then the state can say, we're not doing that. We're not doing your federal law, and the state decides what it's doing, which is like the individual countries, right? And then the cities inside of those states can go, yeah, but that state law, we're not doing that either. Our city does this. And so it affords you the ability to, well, if I don't like this thing here, I can move somewhere else where and that's why it's so beautiful. Like people talk about like how awful Florida is. Well, just don't, if they don't like that. If you usually, if you're a liberal, you don't like Florida. If you're a conservative, you don't like California. And here's the thing, you don't have to live in either one of those places. You can just,
correct.
you can go somewhere where the people, you can surround yourself with the people that who I guess make you feel warm and fuzzy because they align with you. Um, so that's and I think that maybe that where there's not this overreaching, like I'm assuming that in somewhere like, France, that when the French government says you do this, that's what you do, and there is no there's nothing you can do about it. I'm not saying that the federal government can't make laws that affect us, but we concentrate in the United States, we concentrate so hard on who the president is, who's the president, who's the and it's like at the end of the day, if COVID taught you anything, it was, don't worry about that. Like, I mean, it sucks for wars, and like, and again, we talked about that last week. I don't want to get back into it, but like, you know, yeah, I mean, you have to worry about foreign policy stuff, but when it comes to like your daily life, worry about where you live and who's running what where you are. You know, I'm running into that somewhat out here on the island where I live, which is we voted this county council member in named Joe Boykin is his name, and he touted himself as like, I'm going to save John's Island. Like we don't want John's Island turning into a bunch of
Trump.
Walmarts and strip malls and shit like that, because we don't have that out here, right? Um, but now there are two main thoroughfares through the island. There are two main roads that go through the island, and there are these 150-year-old oak trees on either side of these two-lane highways, and now uh, they're proposing widening one of them to like 6 lanes and cutting down 67 of these trees. And it's like, and then Joe Boykin, this dude who, I elected into office, is the one who's like, and he's the one who's supposed to, he's our county council member for Johns Island, and he's supposed to be going, no, we're keeping Johns Island. Now he's all on board with this thing. So I'm gonna like, unfortunately I have to be sort of caring about it and be like, hey, dude, do that, and none of us will vote for you ever again, you know? But the
Right.
thing is, man, it's like our county council is super corrupt here. Like there are lots of land developers on county council, and like, it's just like rules for thee and not for me kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like if I want to build a shed on my property, I'm supposed to bow to the wishes of county council, and they're going to put me through the ringer, which has happened to me before, where they're like, oh, you have to have this and this and this in place, and this is a grand tree, and you can't cut down this if a tree's more than 24 inches in across, right, from side to side, just then you can't cut it down. You have to have special permission. Yet they're going to level 67 trees that are 5 feet, 6 feet across, uh, and like, you're there was supposed to be a like a moratorium on building single family home neighborhoods out past a certain point, kind of out where I live, toward where I live. And one of these land developers who's on county council found a way to develop some land for himself with a neighborhood, out
Yeah.
where it's not supposed to be built. And it's just so you worry about those things here, in the United States. You worry about what your local government is doing, and because you can find a nice little place that you like to live where you don't have to worry about too much about what the federal government and state government's doing. Um, but mainly like what we really worry about is who our governors are and who our mayors are. At the end of the day, mayors and our county council members and our state representatives, because that's really what affects our daily life more than anything. So,
Right.
um, so I think that to get back around to answering the question, I think that maybe the other people of the world kind of saw how that system is set up. I mean, originally in our Constitution, the only job of the federal government was for national defense and to regulate interstate trade. So trade between the states, because it was set up so each state was like its individual country,
Yeah.
and uh, that was it. That was its responsibility. And that should still be its responsibility. But every time the government just does everything poorly. The federal government does everything poorly. Most governments do everything, even state and local governments do everything poorly. But, um, now everyone looks to the federal government to save them. Now it's like, you know, get government to fix whatever the problem is instead of people fixing the problem. So I
Right.
don't know.
Have you it came out just a couple days ago, but have you seen the Terrence Howard, James or Joe Rogan podcast?
I have not.
Okay. Do yourself a favor. It's right up in your wheelhouse. Everything from the idea of the concept what gravity really is, that there are no straight lines. It's super fascinating. I can see why people look at that episode or Terrence Howard and be like, this guy's a kook or crazy, but he's so intellectually, like, he knows what he's talking about. And
Yep.
he's got other scientists that are reading his stuff, and he's publishing his works and stuff. But in the first like 45 minutes, I laughed because he talked about he went to this presentation at Oxford where Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he basically approached him saying, hey, I'd love to do your show and stuff and talk about all this stuff. And he sent Neil his book of ideas questioning some of the stuff of science, like gravity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Neil, so basically Terrence was quoting like Tesla and all these other famous scientists and working like expanding their studies. And Neil red lettered the whole thing, saying it's like basically it's garbage. This is crazy. This is all conspiracy theory. And hearing Terrence talk about Neil and Joe about like kind of like what we talked about episodes ago, where it's like this guy is just he's only in his tooting his own horn and doesn't want to look at science in general. I just laughed and I was like, yes, another one that does not
Yeah.
like Terrence.
Well, yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson, man, here's the thing about that is he's probably, I mean, look, science is not wrong about everything, right?
Correct.
Astronomers are not wrong about everything. There's a lot of great science and a lot of things that are founded in truth that we figured out mathematically but the inability to question anything outside of that doctrine, the inability to go, but what if I'm wrong?
Yeah, what if Einstein was wrong about something?
Like dude, I spend so much of my time especially when it comes to social issues too, or societal issues, I guess is a better way of putting it, but scientific things as well. It's like I spend so much of my time going, what if I'm on the wrong side, or what if I'm wrong, or what if, like, again, you trying to look at something through a different lens, and the worlds that could potentially open up to you if you do that, especially in science. Like, if Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't an idiot, he's obviously a very intelligent human being.
Yeah, of course.
But he's also caught up in the celebrity of what he does, right? And so he doesn't want that celebrity to go away. And in science, we've been shown a lot, talking about pandemics and everything else, that if you step outside of the accepted narrative on anything, whether it's archaeology or physics or astronomy or medicine or whatever it is, that your career is in jeopardy at that point. And so Neil deGrasse Tyson is never, ever, ever going to step outside of the doctrine, outside of the dogma of his field of practice, because if he did that, well, then History Channel is not going to call anymore, and I'm not going to get all these interviews, and I'm not going to be famous, you
Right.
know? And look, that would be the equivalent of me as a musician going, oh, man, this Sound of Madness record really worked. So we're just going to do the Sound of Madness record over and over and over and over and over again, because that's what works for money, and that's what gets me money. And that's not what we do. And so I have very little respect for that. I have very little respect for him. I honor his, and I respect his intelligence. He's an intelligent human being. I respect his the fact that he earned his degrees and he did put the work in, but I do not respect his inability to look at anything through a different lens, you know. Um, I'd rather be wrong. I'd rather be wildly wrong. I would rather be hailed as a kook and a weirdo and be wildly wrong, trying to imagine in science, trying to imagine something different or trying to figure something out using using a non-traditional way of thinking and getting outside of that realm, and then have to come back and circle back around and go, no, I was wrong about that, than to just wave my papers around that I got from a school somewhere and go, see, I'm
Right.
right because of this paper. This paper makes me right and you wrong. This is what's happening with Graham Hancock. We've talked about him before, where it's like he has this, he's talking about ancient civilizations, and he's got a great documentary on Netflix about it. But the documentary on Netflix does not do justice to the amount of research he's done and the depth of what he's gone into. He and Randall Carlson, we've talked about these two gentlemen
Yes.
before, and Robert Schoch is another one. I mean, Robert Schoch has put his reputation in jeopardy by coming out and talking about the water erosion on the Sphinx and all of this stuff. And he is because Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock are, neither one of them are archaeologists. They are very intelligent thinkers.
Yeah.
Um, but they do research nonstop about this stuff. And here you have these archaeologists that come out and just go, nope, we were taught in school about this, and you're wrong, and
Yeah.
this is what it is. And here's Robert Schoch, who is one of those people, or was one of those people, going, hang on, I did go to school and I did do this stuff. And he's what, like a forensic geologist,
Yeah.
I believe,
Forensic archaeologist or
forensic archaeologist, yeah.
yeah.
And he is stepping outside uh, of the church, and going, hang on, and they've just, and of course he's not heralded as, and he does get to be on a couple of these shows. I mean, these people have called. That's how I know about him, right? But you should listen to some of the podcasts with these people, because they have very valid points. I mean, the fact that we're getting DNA evidence now from people who were buried in South America, who have uh, DNA from that matches people from China.
Yeah.
And these are people from thousands of years ago. Um, well, how did they get there? Maybe we're wrong about some things. Um, it's just, I just have a very short, a, And look, does it lead me into a lot of rabbit holes and uh yeah, it does. But I think that actually that is it's my the way I think is actually was hyper accelerated due to COVID, to be honest with you, because this lack of trust in scientific um uh what's the right term? These pillars of scientific uh dogma. I'll use dogma again. But
Yep.
these, these I should listen to Harvard. I should listen to Oxford. I should listen to the CDC. I should listen to the FDA. I should listen to the WHO because these are scientists and they have my best interest in mind and they know what's going on and then all of a sudden it's uh well, hang on, they're all lying to me about this. So what else are they lying to me about? And that's when I got into like, really digging into NASA and stuff. And it's like, okay, there are obviously these orbs and objects flying around in our skies, but we're being told that that's bullshit, that it doesn't exist. And it's like, in the meantime, you find out that like through Freedom of Information Act stuff that no, they know about it too, but they're just telling you they're gaslighting
Right.
you. So when you have someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson who will go on and say, I don't, UFOs don't exist because they haven't landed on the White House lawn. And it's like, is
Yeah.
that what you need? You need something to land on the White House lawn for you to believe in it, for you to believe that it exists, to think that it's scientifically valid. Like, I don't want to listen to you, man.
Yeah.
Like, you are a weak-minded human being. And by the way, like, and I mean that. I'm calling Neil deGrasse Tyson weak-minded. He's weak-minded also because of how pissed off he gets
Yeah.
when
He's super defensive.
when anyone contradicts him or what he believes because he's weak-minded. He has no ability to break down the walls of what he believes and look at something through a different lens. And it's not easy. Like I get defensive about things sometimes and then find out that I'm wrong about something. And it's like, holy shit, and then I get kind of embarrassed about it. I'm like, I thought this way for so long and now I'm wrong. So
Do you think these doctors, especially geared towards the pandemic, and I'm not going to name the famous, well, I will, someone like Fauci, he's the face of everything that went down. But these
mhm.
other organizations like CDC, who, with as truth and stuff starts coming further and further out, people realize the people that fought back against us were on the right side of history. At what point do they become so embarrassed that they actually openly say, "Hey, we fucked up"? Or is it,
Oh, they
or is
well
the
no, they
story so contrived that they can't do that because now they open up lawsuits and all this? Like, how? What, what do you think their thought process is as
just
information comes out?
it depends on who they are as people. And this is why I pay so much attention to this stuff. I have Look, we talked about Chris Cuomo last week. This is not a doctor, right? We talked about him last week,
Yeah,
all of a sudden coming out now and saying he's taking ivermectin. Um, and that he was wrong. He's like, I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. Okay. The man inside of me wants to go, okay, dude, I respect that you're coming out and saying that now. But he was such a purveyor of misinformation, disinformation because of money, because he worked at CNN and because CNN wasn't allowed to say the real truth because Pfizer pays all of their bills,
correct.
you know? And if I thought that Chris Cuomo really because he said, "Oh, we didn't have the information," and it's like, "Yes, you did. You did. You chose not to look at it." If I thought that he was genuine about that, I would feel, you know, I'd feel differently about it. I do I do tend to respect people who will come out and say, "Look, I do respect people who can admit they're wrong." And I have more of a tendency to be forgiving and to want to move forward with those people. The problem is now you see it everywhere, man. All of these people who would tell you to who would have put you in a camp if they had been able to.
Oh hell yeah,
Honestly, like if you didn't take the vaccine,
yeah.
they would have taken everybody who didn't take the vaccine and put them off somewhere in a camp somewhere by themselves, segregated society because we didn't take the vaccine. Now, by the way, there is a report that is out now, a study done by doctors saying that yeah, the vaccine causes cancer. Like you can find it and why it causes cancer. Has to do with DNA mutations 500 times the accepted level of DNA mutations found in the Pfizer
Yeah, and the
vaccine.
spike proteins too. I think I
Yeah.
saw that. Yeah.
But the fact that anyway, but like so now we've got proof that like we weren't idiots. And this isn't a right or left thing. I mean, Trump's the one that started pushing the vaccine through. Like it's on everyone, it's on our government's hands, whoever was involved. The
Yeah.
blood is on their hands, right? Um, but now these people are coming out and going, "Oh, we were wrong. We should forgive and forget." And it's like, no, you just know that like you were seriously wrong. Like
Right. You murdered people.
you were violently wrong,
Correct.
And it's not just them, it's the news reporters and all these people that like,
Yeah.
because they know that they're backtracking big time now. And I have a very, very hard time with forgiving that. If you're a doctor and you really felt like you were doing good, this is the different thing, man. It's like I'm not talking about the people, there were no I'm sure there were, but you know, there weren't doctors out there going, I mean, like literally some of these people were saying if you don't take the vaccine, you deserve to die. Jimmy Kimmel is on late night going, if you don't take the vaccine, then you should walk into an emergency room and be refused care.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's the level of evil we're talking about. I don't give a shit what your ideology is or what you got going on. I would never suggest that someone be denied care because they didn't get in lockstep with something.
Now, do you think that's someone like him saying that on his own, or who's telling?
He said it. I don't give a shit who
Right.
it is,
It's just crazy. It's just crazy that it
I
was
mean,
actually pushed out.
the difference is this, and I don't pay attention to Colbert and Kimmel and Fallon
Yeah.
and all those people. I just don't pay attention to them. It's not that I dislike them. I just don't pay attention to them. And by the way, let me say this: Kimmel, when we've done his show, he's a fucking nice dude, and everyone who works on his show is amazing. Like
Yeah.
it's one of the best places we've been. Doesn't take away from the fact that he said what he said, right? Well, now for you to have that kind of evil, you're like you're literally suggesting to an audience that they turn their back and let people die because they're not doing what you want done. And then now you want to come out and go, oh, well, look, we were wrong and we're sorry. And it's like, that's evil to me. If you're a doctor who was trying to figure things out and you really believed that this vaccine works or could help, and you were honestly going about your business doing that, and then you find out later that that's not the case, and now you're like, hang on, I was wrong. That's different. Then I have a tendency to really respect that person,
Right.
but the problem is we have no gauge for that. We have no way of being able to tell who was being genuine and who was not,
Right.
and uh also, by the way, the people who are laughing at people who took the vaccine because they get sick is fucking evil too,
No, for
you
sure.
know?
100%.
And again, man, like just the how fast civil civility breaks down or broke down. That was really frightening for me, man. The how quick we all were. Me in certain instances as well, to laugh at people or to go, to want to be right. You want to be right so badly
Yeah.
that you throw your morals out of the window somewhat. And
I mean, I tend to question people still though that are still pushing for boosters. Like that part of
yeah,
me right
that but that
now, where I'm like, okay, the third or fourth one, like I don't even care where you put in your body, just be a good person, right?
look, I'm not entirely sure
But
my dad's cancer didn't come from the vaccine. I
that,
don't have any proof of that. I have no
no,
proof of it.
but
I have zero proof of it.
right,
But the fact that he took, my dad is a extremely healthy individual.
right.
Again, he was 84 years old when he got sick, but he had the body of a mid 60s person.
Wasn't he
So
still
person in
working? Did
yeah,
he just
every day.
retire? Yeah.
He hadn't retired at all. He was working 40 hours a week outside. Um, and he takes a vaccine and a booster, and within 6 months, full blown brain cancer. I don't, who knows, man? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to prove that. I have no proof of it whatsoever. But it's suspect to me. There are a lot of people getting cancer right now. There are a lot of people getting sick right now.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people with with lingering effects. Um, but and I have
Our
to say
good
this too.
friend
There,
Mitch LaFon, long COVID. Like
yep.
I talked to
Mitch
him the
has
other
got long
day.
COVID.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mitch. Just like I didn't understand it. Him telling me, showing me like all this stuff. I'm like, man, this is wild. And he was
Yeah.
a
And
healthy dude, man.
the well, but this is the other thing is I've got long COVID symptoms and I didn't take a vaccine, but I'm still sick from COVID. So I'm not I guess I am saying in a way that it's vaccine, but like a lot of this stuff, we don't know where that line is between if you just had COVID and the lingering effects, or if you took a vaccine and the lingering effects. Um, the whole thing is I don't know. It just is what it is, man. We're gonna have to move on from it. And I guess that at the end of the day, it's like I think about these politicians again who pushed this stuff and said the things they said and some of the things that continue to be said. And the only recourse I have is to not vote for them, try to put them out of office. But it's when it comes to when it comes to media people and reporters and people who drove a narrative, I choose not to read or pay attention to them. But when it comes to my fellow human being and someone who may have thought a certain way and now they think differently, whether it's they realize they're wrong or they just want to move on, it's like I have no choice but just to be okay with that. And I don't look, man, I don't we've talked about this, man. I choose not to look at people through a lens.
Yeah.
I choose to look at human beings and see people. And, some of my dearest friends are not politically aligned with me and I don't care, and because we have no choice but to, if we're gonna heal the world, I know that sounds very hippy dippy woo woo shit,
Yeah.
but if we're gonna try to heal what's going on because the world is getting more and more divided, man, just one side or the other. It's very strange. Um, if we're ever going to heal that, then someone has to take the knee and go. And I'm not being a martyr. I'm not saying I'm not not like that, but like some of us are going to have to just be okay with moving on with things, and if you hang on to animosity about things, fellow Americans, not again, not politicians, I'll be, bad leadership is bad leadership, and I will hang on to that animosity. But um, we gotta move on, man. And so this, that's where all of what we just talked about is where my mistrust of science comes from. And the thing is scientists are whining about that now. Oh, no one trusts science anymore, and and it's like, well, that's on you. Those are your fellow scientists. I don't care what discipline they're in. You know, you know, that's your mess to try to clean up. Be honest with people. Tell people what the real deal is. If they've been honest about COVID from the beginning, if they've been honest about vaccines from the beginning, if they'd been honest about UFOs from the beginning, if they had been
Yeah.
honest about, we wouldn't have this problem that we have, and I have this mistrust of, like, if I hear a scientific organization say something, I immediately go to try to poke holes in it and try to figure it out,
Yeah.
you know, and um, and I guess that makes, yeah, I guess that has given me this healthy or unhealthy skepticism of authority, but it also causes me to research things. And a lot of times I find out, like, oh yeah, there's really nothing to this, and they're probably right. And you know, and I don't research everything. I don't have enough time in my day, but uh, it's really hard not to go. Well, I don't even know what the term conspiracy theorist means anymore because Pope, I would have been considered a conspiracy theorist, and most of what I thought is what happened and is true. So that's really not conspiracy theory. That's truth theory.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, yeah, I have a tendency to maybe be a little conspiratorial, conspiracy theory. I have a tendency to align myself with a lot of that kind of stuff just because I don't trust anything. I don't trust
Yeah.
anybody.
Well, it's like the whole
I got a
idea of
trust
you
problem.
can't ask questions, otherwise you are labeled something.
Well, the fact that you can't ask questions,
Who just
the fact that
accepts something at face value? That's what I don't
yeah,
get.
I don't know if you noticed, like we, a couple of episodes ago, one of these episodes got completely throttled, and I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
why. Like, I was just like, 'cause like usually I'll wake up in the morning afterward, after we've released. I don't usually watch in real time or anything, but I'll wake up the next morning and like there'll be 6 to 8,000, 10,000 people have watched this by that point. And I got up, it was like 600 people had watched it. And I was like, what did we say? And I think the only thing I said maybe was I talked about Trump for a second or something. That's the only thing I could think of. But something we said in there got this thing throttled, right?
Yep.
Well, the fact that, we have, and this will probably get throttled if I had to
Can't wait.
guess,
Can't wait.
um, but you're going against, if you go against the narrative that is accepted about something that the media and that the politicians have deemed the acceptable narrative, then we have the ability to not, to remove you from the conversation. And well, why? If what I'm saying is so ridiculous and untrue, then it'll work itself out,
Yeah.
Like and that's that perceived freedom I was talking about earlier, right? The perceived freedom of speech. And if it was just YouTube doing it or Meta doing it or whatever, I guess Meta owns YouTube now, don't they? Maybe. Do they?
No,
I think
Meta owns Instagram. YouTube
Instagram.
is still its
That's
own
what,
separate thing, which is why
or is
stuff
it
still
Google
gets
or does
censored.
Google own YouTube?
It's one of the owners
Yeah.
that owns YouTube
Well,
controls a lot of the information.
yeah, but the fact that so we're told, well, it's a private entity and they can, but the problem is the government is telling the private entity what to do, and
Correct.
so therefore your freedom of speech is being censored. But or mine is, and yours is, whoever's speaking.
Yeah, like a lot of our episodes don't get ad revenue because the stuff we talk about is like
Yeah,
it's just weird. Like we're just two people that aren't experts talking about how this stuff affects our lives. It's like
look, if you say, I'm about to get us demonetized, if you say kill, murder, rape, you say any of these words on
yeah,
it, you're all of a sudden you can't, you get no money.
right.
You
But
can't,
there'll be
you can't say vaccine, you can't say COVID, you can't say, like, if you say any of those things, you're demonetized,
yeah.
and it's like, that is so wildly ridiculous.
And what's interesting about YouTube, they before it publishes, they will hear everything in the episode. So like you'll know within 15 minutes as through their algorithm, whatever how they do it, where they'll be like, oh yeah, no ad revenue, or they'll throttle it and put it back like it never premiered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling this one will get super throttled. I'm surprised that the last one we did where we talked about COVID didn't get throttled, but hey, look, man, it's just it's just kind of undeniable at this point that there was some fuckery that went on, and it was for monetary purposes.
Well, in terms of music, outside of, say you're a major artist, say you're Shinedown, say you're who else, Alicia Keys, whoever it is, and you put an album out that, I mean, some would say even a song like America's Burning was political. But if you're a big band that puts out an album that's atypical of, say you're not a political band, but you put out a song or an album that's a concept of our country's to shit, we need to fight back and bring it back to its glory days. The throttle affects that band is radio stations don't play you. How else does that trickle down? You're not booked to play shows, radio shows. Like, how is that? Because you look at someone like Kid Rock, who's on the far right of the spectrum, whether you love him or hate him, doesn't need radio.
Right.
But a band that loves radio, is loved by the radio community, the God forbid they write a song or do an album that talks from the heart, that's true and authentic to themselves, they get brandished to the point where it's like, no one should hear this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it makes it difficult to make a living.
Like, how do you creatively write a song that you know is from the heart, knowing that there's a chance that not a lot of people are going to hear this unless they buy the album or actually know the band? Whereas if you wrote something on the other side of it, it gets promoted like like songs like Wet Ass Pussy and like all this other shit that comes out. That's not art. It's just whatever, but that's pushed to the masses, to kids. Yeah, you write a song about questioning whatever, or talking about faith, or talking about being pro Second Amendment, and then all of a sudden you're crazy. We gotta stop this.
I mean, man, there's not much you can do about it, honestly. Like, I wish there was like, I wish I had an answer to that, you know? I mean, honestly, man, like I know that Planet Zero was probably the most political thing we ever wrote, the whole record, right? You know?
Right.
But we usually just shy away from politics. I mean, but we didn't consider it po politics though. It was like it was humanity at the time is what we
Yes.
were writing about. Um, and we wrote from a very centrist place too. Like we didn't write from far right, far left or anything like that. We just wrote kind of what we were looking at going on around us and our opinion of it or what we saw from it. There was a lot of stuff about the media and social media and what we're talking about now, throttling opinions and canceling people. A lot of cancel culture stuff that was going on at the time because people had an opinion that other people didn't like. Um, but I think that now it's like cancel culture is becoming a joke. It's becoming a joke at this
Yeah.
point. And look, cancel culture has always existed. If you do something abhorrent or terrible, like really terrible, of course, man, like, if you murder somebody or you hire a hitman to kill your wife or you say blatantly racist things, like
Correct.
really racist things, like you're showing what your true heart is, you know, then people can choose to not buy what you're selling anymore. Um, but I think above and beyond that, cancel culture, where like you go against a narrative and people want to cancel you, or they want to find something, uh, they want to read into something you said and make it into something it's not. I mean, um, that Buckner, that guy, kicker
Oh yeah.
for the Chiefs, who's getting it now from all the feminists, right, or people that call themselves feminists,
Yeah, his
because
jersey sold out in men and women.
because he was asked to, he was a Catholic and he's asked to speak at a Catholic school that there and basically all he's talking about what are considered, I guess, in some circles, traditional family values. Um, and he was just talking about his wife, and he's saying my wife's vocation is being a homemaker, and I love that about her. And what he was saying to the women at the thing is like, some of you, he didn't say all of you are required to do this. He said some of you won't use your degrees. You'll find out that you really want to be a mother or that you want to be a homemaker. And man, he is just getting dragged for
Yeah.
that. But the thing is like they want to cancel him so bad. They would mean the people who disagree with that statement, whatever,
And they're always the loudest too.
again, the world is allowed to hear the opposite opinion ad
Correct.
nauseum, right? The opposite opinion is that women are just as capable as men in every facet of everything,
Correct.
and they can do whatever they want to do. Strong, powerful women. Okay, we get that, and we accept that. I accept the fact. Look, I know a lot of strong, powerful women who in business and in
Yeah.
industry and in bodybuilding and weightlifting and like all of I know a lot of them and I respect them. We're allowed to hear that opinion, but for some reason we're not allowed to hear the opposite opinion, which is uh some people will tell you that internally, psychologically, right? That most women are going to be happier being a mother, being a home, having children and being a nurturing mother because biologically that's what you're designed to
Which I
do.
would I venture to say is probably the most difficult job in the world.
Right.
And
Sure.
probably the
Yeah.
most necessary.
Just the fact, like I'm not carrying a flag for one side or the other. I'm just saying we're allowed
Yeah,
to hear this,
yeah,
but
for
we're not
sure.
allowed to hear this. That's starting to become laughable now. People are starting to laugh at that and giggle at that.
Well, Whoopi
Uh,
Goldberg, Bill Bauer this week came out in defense of him, saying, "Listen, the minute we start disagreeing with people like this, he's a Christian speaking at a Catholic college. Like,
yeah,
what else you want to talk about?"
right. Yeah.
His own teammate Travis was spiking beers and talking about beer and partying in his when he spoke at some graduation in a normal college. So it's
Yeah.
like, are we really attacking this guy for? It's just weird, man.
Yeah. So,
Now I hate
but
the Chiefs.
well, now actually the Chiefs came out in
Andy
uh
Reid did.
what's that?
Andy Reid, a couple players said we stand
Well,
behind our teammate.
but the owners too came out
Yep.
behind it and said, look, this is, because they're the family that owns the Chiefs is a Christian family, I believe,
Yeah.
and they were just like, It's okay to have different opinions. It doesn't make him a misogynist. It doesn't make him like it's quite the opposite of being a misogynist, actually. He is holding his wife up as
And his mom was like a famous physicist or scientist too. Like,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
But he's holding up his wife as the strongest part of his family and saying, like, I wouldn't, it's what I talk about with Kelly, man. She like I mean, I like Kelly is a very, very strong woman. Like she does what she wants to do. I don't I don't, we have a very good mutual marriage of, I do what I do and she does what she does. But I say this all the time is I would be broken homeless without that woman. If she wasn't taking care of the things for our family that I need her to take care of because it's not that I'm incapable, but it's just maybe I am
yeah,
incapable of doing I can't do her job, you know? And that's I think that's all Buckner was saying was is he's he's being the ultimate feminist by holding up his wife and going, this woman makes my life, it makes my family's life. And that is no different to me than someone like Julie Greenwald, who is the head of it at Atlantic
Lennox,
Records,
yep,
and one of the VPs at Atlantic Records who we deal with all the time, and she's a lovely human being. Like I would hold her up as well and go, this woman is killing it in business, and she is a stalwart of what a woman can be in
yeah.
industry. You know, why are those two things mutually exclusive? Like why is it? And by the way, she's a mother as well. Julie is. So what's the problem here? Why is it okay to you can have this opinion but not that opinion? That's what gets me, man, is like, we're going to cancel you because you have the wrong opinion. You didn't say anything wrong. It's just you have the wrong
You
opinion.
have a different opinion. Yeah,
Yeah, we're going to try to cancel you. And look what happens. Like his jersey sells out. And that's what I mean. Cancel culture is becoming a joke. It's becoming a joke at this point. And I think that the fact that maybe some of these people in mainstream, I think you said Whoopi Goldberg or whoever, it's like
yeah,
the fact that they're coming out now and being like, hey, hang on a second, you know, they're starting to get it. Maybe some of
yeah.
these people are
You
starting to get
can't
it.
be that
You
tone
know,
deaf. You can't
because
be.
the thing is, like, I'll accept anyone's opinion. It's opinions.
Yeah,
It's opinions.
I love
You
it.
know, it's where would we be if there weren't that? If we didn't have discourse and we didn't have people being able to to say what they think and feel and believe, I would never change my mind on anything. How about that? Like you would just be told, think this, this is how it is. We wouldn't grow. I would have never grown as a person. I wouldn't continue to grow as a person.
Yeah,
Um, and look, man, this is gonna be a bad example. My mom and I we didn't get into it, but we were at breakfast the other morning and a couple of days ago, and we're talking about being buried versus being cremated or
yeah,
being or like I like the thought of they have these cemeteries now where they bury you and they plant a tree and they don't put you in a casket and you fertilize this tree,
yeah.
and it's kind of these graveyards of trees now. I like that thought that there's a tree there that but my mom is very traditional and she wants to be put in a casket in a vault in the ground and my opinion is that's kind of selfish in a way. It's like I'm locking my body away. That by the way, if you're a Christian,
You're trapping your soul inside your.
yeah, your soul's yeah, I mean it's that's just your body. It's just a vessel. It's not anything anymore. Um uh, that and I'm not saying that someday I might change my mind on this. It might
Yeah,
be
I
better,
like. I don't know. I
but
think I'm with your mom. I like the traditional idea of what that represents, and I don't know if that's because everyone in my family has been buried like that. But now my mom's father was cremated
yeah.
a couple years ago, and that's the only person in my family so far on both sides that has been. So I don't know. To your mom's point, maybe it's the idea of there's a safeness in the idea of tradition, right?
There is the way I think about it is, so let's just say that I'm buried in the ground in a vault in a casket, and I have a headstone, and within a generation and a half, no one's going to come to my gravesite anymore. No one's going to come see
It'll be
me.
knocked over. It'll be.
Well, no, nobody will come. Nobody will come visit me. Like, what's the point in that? There's some
Yeah, what?
narcissism. I feel like there's some narcissism in that. And but also, but here's the thing. I understand that, like, you want some record of your existence. You want some record that you were here. You know, that you walked the earth. And I guess for me, it's like I'd rather have ashes strewn somewhere or be buried where a tree is. You
Yeah.
know,
Was your
and
dad
then and
buried?
yeah,
And how
and
often have you gone back?
I've been back one time to bury my aunt. I mean, that's,
But it's
you
like, so
know,
okay, so you're not someone that actively.
well, my family, where my family is buried is about 2 hours from
Oh,
here.
okay, gotcha. But if it was closer, would that be something we go down there,
Oh yeah,
walk the dog, say hello, what's up?
I feel sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Uh, but uh, but Kelly and I've talked about that, and it's like, maybe our ashes get spread, and then we put, I don't mind putting a marker at my family's burial at the grave site where my family's buried. Like, hey,
yeah,
Kelly and Eric, they existed, and this is who they were, um, I guess. But I don't know, man. There's no right or wrong. Is my point. That, like, so my point is like those are just two differing opinions about something, and we shouldn't, the fact think about how wildly weird it would be for someone to come along, some authority figure to come along and go,
yeah,
you know, burial is right and cremation is wrong. And if you talk about being cremated, we're not going to give you a platform and you're going to be canceled and we're going to pull all of your videos down. And that's what's going on.
yeah.
That's an extreme example maybe, but it's like someone just has a different opinion about something, about how to live their lives.
And you
And
have uh Barry Kirsch wants to go out like a Viking. And I'm like, Barry, this sounds good on paper, but I know damn well Lori's not letting this happen.
what's he want to be, like, lit on a pyre and put out to
Yeah, he
sea?
does. He does. He's like, I'm gonna find the perfect pond and body of water. You guys can all light for arrows and set me on fire and just be out there. I'm like, your family would not allow this to happen. Calm down, Aragon. Like, good lord.
Oh man, I can see, like, I thought about, like, my ocean spreading the ashes spreading the ocean or at the beach or something, but
But it would
I
make
don't.
sense because you spent a lot of your life like that's what makes you
Well,
happy
I'll
too.
I'll tell you how this conversation started with my mother. Was talking about my aunt's funeral expenses and the amount of money, the racket
Oh,
that the funeral business is. I mean, it's a racket, dude. You're upsold on everything. I was sitting
yeah.
there with the guy. We were getting sitting there with my aunt, and they're running I'm paying for the initial stuff, and I have my card there, and this guy's like, he's like, going through all the expenses and all the fees and handling fee. Like, it's just, it's just stuff they're adding on top of stuff on top of stuff. And then he looks at me and I hand him my card and he goes, well, there's a 4% charge for using a card, blah, blah, blah. And I said, nothing would surprise me less right now. I just looked
Yeah.
him in his eye and said that, and he got super uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't care if you're uncomfortable. You got to
Yeah.
realize what you're doing. These people, like, I understand burials cost money. I understand that. I understand nothing's free, but, you know, $20,000 to bury someone at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's now you can do gold lining on the inside, you can do silk stainless steel screws, rounded edges. I'm like, what are we shopping for here?
Now, I'm not going to say that my mom didn't pick some nice stuff out. I'm not saying that that's the case, but, like,
No one cares that what's at 6 feet of the ground.
yeah, well, and that's my thing. So the way this thing originally started was, and I run the risk of sounding like an asshole, but, like, I don't want to do that to my family. That's my point. Like I don't want my family to have to. I mean, not that I wouldn't have the money to do it. I'm just saying, like, you're leaving a huge debt for your family to have to put you in the ground, you know?
Yeah. I was on my nightly walks, I walk through the cemetery. It's like 2 miles I usually walk. And my one of my family friends' father just passed away. The mom had been passed away a couple years ago. And he was buried like, let's say maybe a month or so ago. Well, every time before I leave the cemetery, I'll stop and just stare at the headstone. And what's really odd, like kind of like when they dig a grave and the grass starts regrowing, right, over the hole. And every time I walk through the cemetery, I'll see like a new like area where it's been a couple weeks, couple months, where the grass is finally overgrowing the hole. And it's just like I sat there, I was just it was such a surreal thing where I'm like, I don't know why I'm like getting emotional right now. And
Mm.
it's like it's a visual aid to see how yeah, you know when someone's been dead for a couple months, but buried. But as the grass grows, this time a couple weeks or a couple months, this won't look like a fresh grave anymore. And it's like
Yeah.
part of me is like the last time you're still kind of holding on to the time where you could still maybe get to that person.
Yeah,
But
dude.
once the grass is green, it was such a surreal thing. And the last couple of times I just stood there for like 10 minutes and just stared. I was just like super surreal.
Yeah, I mean, man, that's where my brain has been and my heart has been a lot lately because we've talked about like I've experienced a lot of loss and
Yeah.
I've basically watched my family disintegrate over the last 3 years. Like I don't like the big family that I grew up with is gone.
Yeah.
My mom's the only one left of that. Um, having they closed on my grandmother's house a couple of days ago. Like I'll never walk in that house again.
Yep.
Saying goodbye to that place, you know. Um, I've been thinking an awful lot about this stuff, man. I'm just having to think an awful lot about it and having to put uh move on from move on from my former life. Life isn't like that anymore.
Yeah.
Life is never gonna be uh the big family around a table having dinner ever again. That'll never happen again. I went by yesterday, saw my mom, and I rang the doorbell and she didn't answer. So I opened the door with a key and went out to the garage and saw that her car was in the garage. So I'm like calling for her, and she was in the garage working on something. But like, it's just made me really sad, man. She's out. She's alone too.
Yeah.
Everyone from her generation. Like she just lost her husband and her sister within a year of each other, and those are the last two people she had. Of her. You know, and she's alone. And I'm the only kid that lives here in Charleston. The other kids are out of town, and she's having to learn how to move on and live, and so to your point about the grass, and being sad about that and seeing the grass grow up over it, it is that, man. It's like I've been watching that grass grow up over things for the last couple of years. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you just got to move on, and you're moving on without those people, and um you have to find a new way to live, and that's really and it hasn't hit me completely. I mean, I'm saying like I still have my wife, thank God, right now, and my friends and people in my generation, most of them that I'm close to, my sisters,
Yeah.
and
Nephews and
they're still around, but there will come a time that if I live long enough, it'll be like my great grandmother and my great grandmother and my grandmother were, because both of them were the last ones of their generation,
yeah.
and they lived an awful long time without their spouses and without their brothers and sisters, and so if I live long enough, that'll be me, and I'll really have to figure out how to live without those things and those people. So I don't know, man. It's
Yeah.
it's I haven't grieved yet either. I don't grieve well at all. Like I haven't cried yet about anybody who's passed away in the last 4 or 5 years, 4 years. I haven't had any sort of like grieving process for anybody. It's like my brain goes immediately to survival. Like,
But
okay,
is that because you have to
this,
feel now you're the old you're the male of the
yeah,
family? It's got to take a
well,
leadership role here.
I think that's what it is. It's like I just don't like. I've watched every single other person in my family cry. I've watched my wife cry. And I just haven't done it. And I don't know. I guess it'll come at some point when I don't want it to, or when I least expect it. But yeah, I just haven't, like, it's not that there's not acceptance there. I've accepted it for sure, but like it's almost like I just haven't given myself time for that. It's like if I just keep it's one of my flaws, man. As long as I keep busy, I'm okay. Like
Yeah.
just stay busy, and I keep myself very busy with things.
But you're busy. Like the outcome of your busyness, it's like productive, right? Where I think some people just create that to stay busy for no reason. I don't know if that's healthy though for those people. Like how hard it
Well,
would be for you if you were doing this art. It's like Brent or Dave Bassett were like Eric, like, you just stay busy to stay busy because this is not like how you normally work.
Oh, well, that's what I'm doing. I mean, look, I
Right.
am staying busy just to stay busy. I'm staying busy so that, and we've talked about the depression thing too. Like I always say, I'm trying to outrun the depression. Like if I stay busy, I don't have time to be depressed. If I'll get that way, but it really helps just to like, I mean, so I'm always exhausted because I'm always tired and I'm always trying to outrun everything. But I think I'm outrunning this grief thing too. If I just stay, look, the closest I came, man, was at my grandmother's house when I think we talked about where I could like still see the food on the countertop and I could walk into each room in the house and remember something that happened in that room and some core memory that took place in that room. Uh, and thinking about my dad, being there and like all those people that have just like just disappeared. And I'm talking like five five main people in my family in the last couple of years have just like gone,
Yeah.
just disappeared. And then that's not talking about even friends and people like Doug McKean and other people. Like I'm sitting there working on the next Shinedown record, and this is the first record I've done without Doug in a long time. And I've got his picture over here sitting on one of the pieces of gear. I put a picture over there of him because I know he would hate it. He would hate the fact that I have a picture of him in here. And uh uh so I've got it sitting there almost to spite him. But man, I'm looking at that and it's like this is sad too, man. Like I'm you know, but that's part of life is I mean, if we live long enough, that's part of being a human being is you deal with these things. And but the grief thing, just like I just you know I've been close to and I talk myself out of crying. I talk myself
Yeah.
out of breaking down. Like the second I start feeling like it's gonna happen, I'm just like, nope, nope, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know why I'm so scared of it, of like letting the emotion out of that and just having uh, you know, I can't tell you the last time I cried. I mean, it's been years probably. No, it hasn't been years. Yeah, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. It's just not something I'm comfortable with, you know?
Right.
So, uh, maybe there's something abnormal about them. I'm sure there's something abnormal about that, but
It'd probably be such a cathartic release for you though, in terms of like,
yeah, but there's something about staying hard, man. There's something about and look, that's just on me. It's not like it's the way it is, but it's
I like
there's some
that though. That's like David Goggins like approach. Like you gotta be always hard. Like you can't,
yeah. But
no
I'm
time to
not.
grieve.
I'm not a hard motherfucker like David Goggins, but it's like emotionally I feel like I have to have
Yeah.
this wall up all the time and I have to be just pushing through. Dude, 'cause look, man, there's been stuff with the band and with business and with that has been kind of heart-wrenching for me, you know, that I have to put my thick skin suit on and just like and this has been while all this other stuff's been going on and like just like go, man, nobody cares, dude. Nobody cares. Just get on with it. Nobody cares that your dad died. Nobody cares that your aunt died. Nobody cares that your grandmother passed away.
Yeah.
Nobody cares that you feel this way about the songwriting process, or nobody cares that just get on with it. And so there's that hard exterior thing that I've developed because I am such an emotional person that if I feel like if I let myself be me, like really be me about it, that I'd never get anywhere because I'd just be caught in the moments and I wouldn't be able to get past things. And so I think that probably has a lot to do with it. It's just me. Like that's how I talk to myself, just like that. Get on with it. Nobody cares, dude. Nobody fucking cares. You know, nobody cares that nobody's gonna care if this guitar sounds like this or like that. Nobody's gonna care if you're emotional inside about this, that, and the other thing. Nobody, anything in my life that I'm doing, these are the conversations I have. Is just get on with it. Nobody
Right.
cares. And occasionally I'll have a talk with a friend about something that's bugging me, or you know, I'll vent these things out to somebody, um, and that helps. But at the end of the day, it's like I go about my can't go about my business and daily life like that, like carrying these things around with me. I carry the people with me, and I carry the experiences with me. And I do carry animosities with me, and I know that's not healthy either. Again, I'm one of these pack it all in people. Like I pack all of it inside, and until I end up having some sort of a breakdown, which will probably happen at some point. I'll probably have a mental breakdown, emotional breakdown at some point. But um, there's just something like in order for me to advance and move forward. That's kind of how I have to do things. And I'm not saying it's the healthiest way to be, but it's what works for me. And that mean voice in my head, if I can, talking my way through things and just telling myself to not be a pussy and get on with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, no one cares, work harder,
Yeah.
kind of thing. My
Yeah.
buddy Thomas has that hat. It says nobody cares, work harder. And I think that's just sort of my, like, if you ask about what I want on my headstone, I guess maybe that's what I need on my headstone. One day you asked me that last week. Nobody cares, work harder. But I'm not saying that's healthy. That's probably the most unhealthy way to be, especially about emotional things. But
Yeah. It's like that type of bravado that it might make you feel good, but I don't know. I've always used to think that way. Like when it comes to like I'm never sick. I don't go to the doctor.
dude, I don't either, man.
I'm just like, I don't have
I've got
time to be sick. I can't even fathom what it'd be like to be out of commission for a day.
I've got
People need
four
me.
I've got four medical things going on right now that I should probably go to the doctor about,
Right. But you're making sure that
but I
how,
probably won't.
yeah, for sure. We'll deal with it on the road.
Yeah, probably.
We gotta carry Eric out of the bunk.
One
Okay.
of those being my mental health. I'm always telling people to talk and get help, but I'm the last one to do it. I'm probably at a point right now where I really need some serious help, but I don't have time for it. I got a record to make. Nobody else in my band has time for it. We got a record to make. Music
Right.
industry doesn't have time for it. We got a record to make. You know, we got tours to do. Um,
Speaking of
you
which,
know,
you guys Brett sent me the article. You guys are highest chart on the pop airplay since If You Only Knew.
yeah,
You
I think
said
so.
a couple of that's pretty rad, dude.
Yep. Yeah, man. So Symptom is doing well. It's doing what I didn't really think it would do, which is amazing. That's how it always happens. If you think a song's a hit, it's probably not a hit.
Yeah,
If it's always the ones you don't expect. So
that's awesome. Now, how do you is it tough to juggle with radio? You got pop, alternative, rock. You
yep.
guys are so many, especially rock and alternative. Like, is it when they see that go really well on like pop or adult AC or whatever? Do the rock stations or these like other whatever they kind of get like jealous, or are they kind of like how
No,
do you like appease
I
all of them?
I don't think so, man. I mean, look, the thing is we owe rock radio everything. I
Yeah,
mean, we just do at the end of the day. Rock and alternative is that's our and so many of these program directors and people at these radio stations are family to us. Like really, I mean, that's not lip service, man. Like these are people who like I have their phone numbers and we text back and forth just about not about business stuff, man, but just about life stuff,
yeah,
and um the real ones, and I'm not saying that if you, I guess maybe I shouldn't put a label on it, but like when 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 a lot of these people at rock radio see us going at pop, most of them are really happy for us, man. That like because that's an opportunity. Because the way that we see it is we're carrying the torch for rock. We're not. It's not like oh, Shinedown's moving on from rock, you know, or we're moving on from alternative to this other thing. It's like no, we are like here we go. We got the flag in our hand, and it's like no, we're a rock band, and we're gonna do this thing at pop, and we're fortunate enough to be able to do it. But like this is like we see ourselves as a real rock band, so it's like you know not a formulated thing, and so we can carry that to the masses, and hopefully it kicks down doors for other rock artists to go do the same thing. you know I would love to see our brothers in P Roach with Leave a Light On. I'd love to like take it to pop, man. I'd love to see that go, and I think that now what we always try, we are always really careful to honor rock radio and to not turn our back on that. That's the other side of it. You can't just go, oh, now we're at pop and like rock was a stepping stone or something. Rock radio is like, no, man. Rock radio is the DNA and the heartbeat of our band, and
right,
it will never not be that. Uh, you know, do we take look, we're always very careful to make sure that we're giving rock radio its due while we're doing these other things as
right.
well. Like and uh just so we don't like, because you get busy, man. Working a song at pop radio,
Oh, I mean,
and by the way, I'm sitting here acting like I'm actively doing it. I'm doing my job in the band, which is making records right now. Brent and Zach are out doing the pop radio thing right now, and playing shows and acoustic shows and doing interviews and podcasts and all this stuff. It's a long climb with that stuff, man. And so we're very careful though in the meantime while we're doing that to be, you know, honoring our brothers at rock radio, our brothers and sisters at rock radio, and continuing to thank them and carry the torch for that, and checking in. You guys need anything from us, man? Can we, need any liners? Do you need us to do anything? We don't have a single at rock right now. I guess Symptom is still recurring at rock, which is great. We don't have an active single, I guess, at rock radio right now. And it's okay to go away from that. We're making a record right now. We've kind of
yeah,
disappeared. And we would normally be disappeared from all radio right now, but Symptom keeps working at pop, so we're having to keep kind of, the record cycle is not ending. It's like we're having to kind of continue it on.
yeah,
But man, there's just so many great human beings and great people that with great souls at rock radio, man. And we're meeting a lot of, and learning about a lot of great people at pop radio too. Um, so yeah, there's a juggle to it in a way, man, but it's an internal juggle. It's like not forgetting where you came from and being genuine and still being like growing, but still being the people that you were, not forgetting that. So look, as you grow, you do morph and you do become something different. But I think it's always a good idea to not get ahead of yourself
yeah,
with any sort of success, man. Success is fleeting and fake, like the growth is what is real. Like you grow from success. The success isn't real, the growth is real.
right,
And if you grow the right way, um, then you maintain the kernel of who you are, and that never changes. Man, that's the most important thing I can say to anyone out there who is striving for success, or maybe on their way up, or has achieved some level of success. If they're watching this, is just be who you are all the time. Don't grow into somebody else internally. It's okay to become more successful and to branch out and
yeah.
to creatively become other things, but don't change who you are at your core. Like I would love to think that my friends who I've had since high school, middle school, after high school, bands that I used to play in, still, view me as that same person. Um, and I still treat them the same way. I don't act any differently around them than I used to. At least I hope I don't.
Did you ever have the urge to one night only Eric Bass back in one of your original bands with your buddies just to do like a charity event?
I've heard them. They've talked about it.
That'd
I've had
just be so wild just to see
some of
like
the
an
bands
old
that I used to
logo. Yeah,
some of the bands I played in previously wanting to do other
yeah,
things. But honestly, man, like I don't have any desire to go back and revisit those things really. Like um I love the people, and I keep in touch with the people from those things. I mean, you met
yep.
Jerome, man, my buddy.
Oh, dude.
Dude, Jerome is the best, man. Jerome was the other guitar player in my first band, and I mean, we were a band for a lot of years. We were a band from 94 until like 2000, I think, or something. And he and I are still just really great friends,
Yeah,
and I'm great friends with his family, and you know, it's um but I don't have any desire to revisit the musical side of those things. I mean, look, if one of the bands was like, hey man, we really want to do a reunion show, we really would love to do it, we really love you to do it with us, and I'd have to maybe think about it, at
yeah.
that point. But um I've had other bands, like there were like four main bands I was in, even some of them just for a second before Shinedown, and
Were they
I
simultaneous?
uh
Like
mm,
we're to the point where you
yes,
would
well
wear different outfits each time you
well
play with different bands.
no, I mean, no, it was always the same person in the band, so it was never like
Gotcha,
putting on an
gotcha.
act for one of them or something. But they some of them overlapped, like where I was in playing shows with both bands simultaneously, and then I move on to something else, and some of them were I moved on from most of them for good, healthy reasons, you know. But
Yeah,
anyway, I hope that answers your question.
no, it does. I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. Look, this
Wrap it up.
episode covered everything.
Yeah, I don't really remember what we talked about.
Uh,
I'll have to go back and watch.
yeah, it's a lot.
I I feel like this is one of those ones where I literally rambled for an hour and a half and didn't really say much of anything.